Joining the podcast is former Auburn running back and former JSU running back, Roc Thomas. Roc, I got to ask, just out of pure curiosity, I know your real name is Rashawn Thomas. Tell me about where Roc comes from.
Yeah, man. Basically, I got that name from my dad and my aunt and my mom, and it basically came about when I was maybe like months old, and they just called me that because my first name is Rashawn. So if you just take the A and change it to an O, the first three letters, then you get Rock. But it's crazy that you asked that because I actually had an article back when I was in high school come out that just basically was insinuating that I had gotten that nickname because I was rough around the edges as a kid, which isn't 100% true, man. It's I was just pretty much I was a chill kid, and my dad, me and him just laughed about that, even it being years later, and it was just a funny story.
Well, you went to Oxford High School, which has pretty much been always a powerhouse in football, I would say. You had Coach John Gross there, who was your coach at Oxford before he went to JSU, and now they have Sam Adams. I want to give a shout out to Coach Adams. But while you were at Oxford, um, you were Mr. Football, Gatorade Player of the Year, Under Armour All American. Tell me, just recap what your high school career was like.
Man, it was crazy. And it's something really that I often think about it just randomly. It's just crazy because I moved to Oxford my eighth grade year, and previously I was going to Weaver, which is a 3A school. Probably it's not too far from Oxford. It's maybe like 20 minutes. But once I moved to Oxford, I had went to practice and everything. I'm just in eighth grade, and fast forward like my eighth grade to ninth grade. My eighth grade was pretty good. I did really good. I had gotten a lot of caught a lot of people's eyes and things like that, man. And it was just really good. In ninth grade, I had started to get well, eighth grade, I really had like secretly gotten like my first two offers from Alabama and Auburn in state. And but they were like just verbal, asking me if I, were interested and stuff like that. Ninth grade really started to ramp things up because they had moved me to varsity, and like mentally I was like just wanting to play with my friends, and I didn't want to like be with the older dudes or whatever. I didn't mind, like I wasn't scared or anything like that. It was just the factor of like I just want to be with people who like I know and I'm in class with and stuff like that. Like, just a comfort thing. And um I had started to get a few more offers. I think I had gotten an offer from like maybe it may have been Clemson or yeah, I think it was Clemson and South Carolina, those two schools. So at this point, I got like four offers, and they're big schools. But they're not like, we're not telling everybody I got offers because back then, like at that point, like you really couldn't offer a scholarship until, the player was, I think maybe like, what was it, like 10th grade, ninth grade or something like that. But anyway, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, it was just pretty much like a blur because I was doing so much things, and I was going to so many camps, and I really didn't even like go to as many camps as I could have. Like I had tons of camp offers. I had tons of places that just did random camps I could have went to. But it was just nuts, man. I met a lot of great dudes. I played with Corn Alexander, Trey Elston, Bobby McCain, tons of great athletes. And we won a lot of games, dude. We just won a lot of games because Coach Grossi was just that type of guy, man. He built the atmosphere where winning is just felt normal. It felt like it was fun. We always had fun, and we always did fun things outside of playing football. We always did things to bond and stuff like that. So it pretty much made it feel like um you went on a vacation with family to play football for 4 years or so, you know what I'm saying? But some guys had graduated earlier because I had started playing with them when I was young. So I just kind of had to become that leader and take the role of those guys. So, like, man, my high school really, it was great. It showed me a lot. there's just a ton of guys that, I got respect for because they showed me a lot of things that, are life lessons, and you can take those things and use them as life, and they're basically just gems.
Well, you told me that so you played in the Under Armour All-American game, but you had told me that you were originally going to play in that Army game. What happened there? What was the switch?
Oh, it was crazy, dude. I had I had gotten the Army invite first, and I was just like, cool. And like I think only like maybe like 2-3 weeks had passed, maybe a month max had passed before I had gotten the Under Armour All American invite after that. And I basically was like, another thing in high school, dude, I was so stubborn. Like I was just like I kind of felt like I held grudges and took things personal. Like if somebody didn't like invite me to something or something like that, but I wouldn't like pout about it. I just go work harder or something and like try to get somebody else's attention, kind of on to the next thing type mentality. But I had taken that Army invite and I accepted it. And I basically just told them kind of like over the phone, like, yeah, like I'm down, I'll come or whatever. And because they had came to my school and I told them, I was like, I have to let you know, like, I'm not sure right now. But I let them know like not soon after. And then the Under Armour dude like shows up to my school or whatever, and he basically like was telling me like he's been traveling like they kind of got like a route, so he's like been coming to all the kids like personally to come see them or whatever. And I just basically like it just kind of humbled me because I was like, people are like doing a lot of things to kind of show me, my worth and show me how much they appreciate me and what I'm doing. So, it just kind of made me take a step back and like just be a little more patient with things and stuff like that. So I basically had just told him I was like I had already committed to the Army game, and I was like I just kind of feel like it's disrespectful just to go to another one. He was like, no, like it's okay, you can do that. He was like we can really just give them a call and just tell them that you want to switch and just see how they feel about it. And we had done that, and like they were cool with it and everything. They respected it, and that's just how that happened. But at first, I kind of felt I felt real bad about it because I was like, dang, dude. I was like, I already accepted their invite or whatever, and I was like, they've been anticipating me coming up there playing in that game or whatever. And yeah, but that was that.
Well, Coach Gross ended up going to JSU after your junior year. So your senior year at Oxford, Coach Ryan Herring comes in. What were the two differences in the two? Would that be in your senior year? Did that kind of affect your recruiting process with a new guy coming in, to talk to these coaches that want to come see you and maybe giving you, another guy to give you, advice and all that kind of stuff?
Right. Yeah. It kind of does a little bit, but the way Coach Gross had set my recruiting up, he basically just gave me free reign to do whatever I wanted with it. But he would step in, when he saw things that I needed to change or ways I needed to improve talking to coaches or my interactions with them, and or kind of getting information from them, certain stuff I need to ask. So he had already really set me up to kind of handle it myself. So by the time he had left, like I was pretty good. Like I maybe had like 30 some odd offers, and I'm not even a senior yet. And when Ryan Herring came in, he just did the same thing, really. He just pulled me in the office and he was just like, what do you want to do with it? And I was just like, this is kind of what me and Gross did. And, we can just continue to do that. And I was like, if you feel like you need to step in or you need to say something, I was like, that's your place to do. So, we just kind of meshed well on it automatically when he came in, and it was good.
What sold you on Auburn? Were you an Auburn fan growing up?
No, man, I was actually an Alabama fan, and I've told I I've told not like on a podcast or like I've never publicly told anybody, but like when I was I think, dude, I don't know what grade I was in. I was young. I think this was like maybe my 19th grade year. I remember I had went on a visit to Alabama, and we had went to like someplace, I think Full Moon Barbecue. I think that's the spot, or it may be another, I don't know. But we just had like a real good experience, and I bonded with some of the people at Alabama, and it was just fun for me. But like that was the only school I had went to, and like that's one thing that kind of I would change in my recruiting process. I would just went to more schools so I could kind of see what was out there. But I had went there, I had a good experience, and like I was just like I remember going home and I was like, I would go back there. Like that's a place I would want to go back to. And I remember taking like a few more visits. I went to some games there. And in between, I maybe had just went to like Tennessee and Florida State, those places, and I was still like in Alabama because I was like, they win. I was like, they got a great atmosphere. I was like, great fans, it's close to home, great education. I was like, it's 5 stars all around. Like it's just it doesn't seem like there's anything that could go wrong when it comes to the school. So and I was already like kind of an Alabama fan, like growing up, like, the Alabama Auburn rivalry, you go to school and everybody wants to wear jerseys. Like I would want to wear Alabama jersey. And it came down to it. One day I just went on a visit and I was talking to the coaches heavily. Like I was kind of talking to them like every day. Like we was just kind of keep in touch. And I remember I went to I think it was like maybe just a practice or a scrimmage or something they did like that, but it wasn't public. And I had told coach, I was like, I don't know, I just felt that I was just like, I want to commit. And I won't name names of the coaches that I was talking to, but I told him I wanted to commit, and he was like, okay. He was like, he didn't really act like he was excited or whatever, as I would have expected him to be, if I'm committing. And I remember he just told me he was like gonna go talk to Coach Saban, and because he's definitely still there, obviously. I remember he said he was gonna go talk to Coach Saban about it or whatever, and he left and came back and talked to me, and he was just basically like, and Coach Saban had never said this to me, so it's not anything. I nothing I think he was knowing about. He had just told me, he was like, yeah, man. He was like, we're gonna wait or whatever. He was like, we want you to wait to commit. Um, and it just threw me off guard, and I was just like, wait for what? And he just really didn't have an answer for me. And me and my dad were like, we were big on like scouting, like who else was being recruited and these type of things. So, not just to go to a school for a good fit, but to go to a school because, I'm gonna play, I'm gonna get, I'm saying, exposure. They got a good scheme, all this stuff like that. And we had basically like knew like they wanted to try to get another player or other players before me to see if they could get them before me. And I basically was like, I'm not gonna be the type of guy to just wait around or wait for you to see if you want me in case you don't get, like, I'm not a rebound basically. So I kind of just cut ties with them from that point. And then this is like 10th, 9th, 10th grade. And I had basically stopped like talking to him, text calls, like, and only person I had talked to after that was Saban and my position coach. I didn't talk to nobody else. And yeah, man, I was just pretty much like upset, like of his reaction to me wanting to commit. And that didn't like that. I wouldn't say that drove me to go to Auburn. I still would have went to Alabama, but they kind of like waited too late to kind of make a run to get me again, and which was 12th grade when Kiffin came, and he had came to my school personally and like just told me to take an official visit. He wanted me to take an official visit. And he even told me, he was like, you don't even have to come in. He was like, I just want you to come hang out with me, or I just want you to come see the atmosphere. He was like, I think that'll kind of put you in a better space, or whatever. But yeah, that was that. And after that, I went to a few other places, like I said, Florida State, and those were really like during my 7-on-7. I did travel 7-on-7, and that's really when I went there. Other than that, I really didn't go to any other schools. And I took my other official at Auburn, and that was that.
What was it like to play JSU while you were at Auburn? Because JSU nearly beat you guys. Did you have that game circled on your calendar, playing the hometown team? I'm sure there was a lot of
Yeah,
Oxford, Anniston people coming to watch you.
yeah, definitely. And I was actually talking to Coach Bates, who was there, Todd Bates, and I was talking to Coach Gross like before we played them, and we was just kind of we would always just joke around like saying who's gonna beat who or what the score is gonna be and stat lines and stuff like that. And we would never get too deep into where we're like telling on each other like what we're doing in the game and that stuff like that. Never talk about that. But it was always good vibes, and I definitely had that circled on my calendar. But I had actually scored a touchdown in that game too. I scored like on a wheel route or something like that. And that's when the game was pretty close. And then I actually fumbled like towards the end of the game, and I think I had sprained my ECL or something. I sprained something like in my elbow or something crazy.
When you
Uh,
fumbled, were you afraid? Oh, dude, I'm never gonna hear the end of this from all my
yeah, dude.
Jacksonville people.
Man, I was like, oh my gosh, I was distraught on the sideline. I was just like, dude, I'm never gonna live this down because I'm playing the hometown team. There's hometown people here. Everybody sees it, and then I've scored already. But this is just gonna negate the touchdown. Like it's gonna take the touchdown away, and they're gonna be focused on the fumble if we lose. But we won anyway, man. It was a good day.
Well, what happened at Auburn? Because you were named the starting running back at one point, and then you
Yeah.
leave. What was the story behind that?
So I basically was named a starter. And we had played in that game that season. The first game of the season, we played Louisville in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. I think it was a Chick-fil-A game or something like that, the kickoff game. And I had injured my foot that game, and I didn't think it was like anything serious. And I stayed in the game, and I just really couldn't run. So I came out. We went and got an X-ray and all this stuff, and like we didn't see anything at first. Then I ended up having plantar fasciitis in my I think it was my left foot, or I'm not even sure, but it just kind of slowed me down a ton, dude. Like my first, probably like those first 2 3 months of it, and I don't know. I think I guess they felt like they should kind of try to look other ways and try to find like different guys or whatever. And they really weren't more focused on me anymore. And that's when we kind of started to, I guess, I don't know, I guess they fall off. Because I just felt like they really didn't believe in me anymore. And it got to a point where, dude, I was just crushing and I was going crazy. Like I had gotten back healthy and I was doing really good. I had got my weight up. I was like 210, 212, and I was fast still. I was probably faster than I was when I weighed like 190. So like they were back feeling good about me, and they had um gotten to a comfortable place with me again, like in the season, but then they still weren't playing me. And it bothered me, but at the same time, I was already like, I wasn't new to the not playing game. Like, cause I mean, obviously, there's games where I haven't played. There's been people that's played before me. Definitely my freshman year, I had to wait in line behind Corey Grant, Cam Marks Payne. But it basically had just gotten to a point where they were like still wanting me in, but they were still like wanting other guys in at the same time, and they just didn't. To me, they just didn't know how to do it yet. I feel like they do it better now. They just didn't know how to put all the playmakers on the field, and they tried to like mesh me into playing slot receiver, and I had no problem with it. I was like, I'll definitely play slot receiver, but they were like kind of on the timing of not playing running back anymore. And I was just like, no, I was like, I still want to play running back. I was like, I'm a running back. But I was also not opposed to doing whatever it took to make the team better. So it really got to everything was really just like a ripple effect. Once they put me at receiver, they didn't know how to use me at receiver, and like it was to a point where I was just running routes, being like a decoy and stuff like that. Um and I knew the playbook well, so I always knew like in Gus Malzahn's offense, there's always like a decoy. There's a guy who the ball's supposed to go to. There's a guy who's supposed to throw the ball to him, definitely. And he does some freaky stuff like he'll have running backs throwing the ball and stuff like that. And it just became, like I said, a ripple effect. And I ended up having like a meeting with Rhett Lashley and Coach Horton. Who else was it? Damian Craig. I had meetings with like all of them because I had told them like basically like I think I should transfer if if we can't find like something that fits for me. You know what I'm saying? And Coach Craig had agreed with me because he knew he was gonna leave. Coach Horton, he didn't want me to leave. Coach Lashley didn't want me to leave. But the killer was when I talked to Coach Malzahn, he was just like, um, he was just kind of like nonchalant about it. And that's kind of his demeanor, but he necessarily doesn't mean for it to come off that way because he's so business minded and I think his mind is always running 100 miles a minute because he's so creative. And he had just basically told me, he was like, if you want to go somewhere, like he's like, we'll find somewhere for you to go or wherever. Like he was like, we'll get you where you want to go or whatever. And to me, I was just basically wanting him to be like Coach Lashley was and how Coach Horton was. Like, no, like we'll find a way for you to be on the team and have an impact on this team. And I had just basically sat on that thought for like months, and I still hadn't transferred. I still hadn't done anything. I was just still just going to class and kind of talking to Coach Lashley and those guys. And it just basically came down to the point where I was just like, yeah, I should just leave because there's no point in just waiting around. Nothing's gonna happen if I'm waiting around. So just made a
Well,
move.
well, during all that, when you were entering the portal, what were some other schools that you were looking at? How much of an impact did Coach Gross being at JSU have, ultimately on you going there?
Um, all of it really because he had coached me throughout my high school career, and we had just created, a bond that kind of it was one of those that a coach kind of you feel like he kind of takes you under his wing and becomes like a little bit of a father figure in your life. And like I said, my dad was definitely in my life, and but Coach Gross, like he played the role like on the football field because when you play football, like you're spending like a lot of hours with the coaches and stuff like that. Like you gotta, if you don't really have a bond with them, then the experience is just up to you. But when you have a bond with them, they make it better. And he had a lot of influence on me making that decision because throughout it, I basically was talking to him, and he never like tried to lure me there. He never tried to like tell me to come there. He would always just tell me like, just pray about it and just make the best decision that you feel like is for you and your future and your family and the things that you want to achieve. And that's basically what I did. I basically continued to work out and stuff during that time, and just kind of do my research on different schools. And I actually hadn't even talked to any school besides JSU because I was only talking to Coach Gross. And after that, after I had talked to him and got comfortable with, just kind of seeing what was out there, I think I was looking at Oregon because that was one of my favorite schools in high school. Um, what was the other school? I think I was only like really focused on three schools. Oregon. Um, I started looking back at Clemson again. Um, and basically I was like, I'm trying to see like if they had, you know, if I could fit there, if it would work. And I can't remember the other one, but those were the main two really.
I remember your senior year at JSU in 2017. You were the OVC Offensive Player of the Year, and you guys, had a lot of question marks going into that year. Your quarterback was Bryant Horn, who was a former walk-on linebacker, and I had one of your old teammates from that team, Jonathan Hagler. I asked him about this team. Going into that year, did you guys just have a chip on your shoulder? Was there an underdog mentality that year?
Yeah, definitely. And we had definitely worked a little harder at becoming a whole as a unit that year in the off season because there was just a lot of stuff going around in the air, and we just felt it that we had something to prove, and everybody felt it. The coaches did, the players did, But I feel like we definitely could have done a lot more that year. But I feel like what we did was a lot of growth from where we were before we had started. And like you said, we had Horn, who was a walk-on linebacker. Like he comes in and he's playing quarterback and he's killing it. He's throwing dimes and he's able to run the ball. We're able to have a diverse offense. And Hagler, he's a hell of a player. He works hard. He's smart, and he's just all about the game, dude. He's literally all about the game, and he knows a lot about it. And him being on the defensive side, that was just another one of our leaders, man. And that's something that we needed, like as a piece to the puzzle that we were trying to create. And Hag was just, also all about making sure all the other pieces were right too. He's not just worried about himself, and he's a selfless guy, and that impacted the team a lot too in a good way.
Hagler mentioned since Bryant Horn was a former linebacker, when he'd take off running and stuff, he was able to take some hits, and then, playing defense, he was able to kind of pick up on some coverages and things like that.
Right. So that basically, that gave him an advantage, man. And he was able to read defenses, and like he would tell me when we were just lined up already, he would be like, "They're blitzing over here," and it would just help me as well because sometimes that's stuff that I don't see. Like if a guy's not in a blitzing position or on the line, like but Horn knew the formation from watching film, or he knew the formation from them doing it a previous time in the game, then he would just tell me, and that would just help me and give me a heads up as well. And he's smart, dude. He's smart. He's so smart, man. He's able to just do those things in like a split second, and that helps him make plays and also helps the offense make plays.
Well, not to get ahead of our talking points here, but since you just touched on being able to pick up things, pre-snap, was there when you got to the NFL, were guys able to do that just, 2-3 times better? Did it amaze you sometimes when guys would be like,
yeah, definitely. And it also it makes it a lot easier because the quarterbacks, they're so much smarter, but from experience and seeing all these coverages and all these blitzes and packages and formations. So they're able to see it so quickly. And when you have guys that have played with quarterbacks like that, like O linemen, and they kind of get that information as well, and it all becomes in one. It's like they're thinking 10 times faster than him because everybody's all in one. And the left tackles is seeing stuff, and he's just passing it down the line, and those guys just getting the information and processing it. It just makes the game so much. You're able to play faster because you kind of know what's going on, and you don't second guess yourself. Is what I'm saying.
Right, right. So going back to JSU, I was going to ask you, obviously, FCS is nothing like the SEC, but what were the, differences you noticed in the competition? Were you able to just get a quick step on guys every time or outrun them? What was that? What did you notice about that?
Yeah, the main difference was that, like I was able to get a quick step on guys more than I was in the SEC. And, in the SEC, you kind of got to, it's like you really got to have it like all in one. It can't be like a hiccup here and then you still get it. It can be sometimes, but more times than not, you can't have a hiccup here and still make a big play. But in the OVC, you could, and that was one thing that I did take advantage of. And it's also like not to knock anybody in the conference, but it's just more simple. Like they're doing simpler things because they're getting guys that haven't been coached as well, or they're not as smart in football. So they kind of gotta take things down a notch to make it, simplify so guys can play faster. So more times than not, it's in our offense. That's why we always did so well, because it was so complex and we did a lot of complex things that kind of threw defenses off, and that's why we did succeed.
After JSU, you went undrafted, but you got picked up by the Minnesota Vikings. You made the 53-man roster. You got to see some playing time early in the year. You made your debut against the Rams. I just want to know, I dreamed as a kid being the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. As somebody who has lived out that dream of being an NFL player, what was that like to just put on those pads and to know, man, I'm in the NFL?
And it's surreal. It's crazy because it's like you said, it's a dream, and then you literally get to see it firsthand. Then you get to experience it firsthand. It's my son in the back. You get to experience it firsthand, and it's just like I said, it's a surreal feeling because that's something that you've been wanting to do your whole life, and you've been prepping to do it. You've been doing all these things just so you could do this one thing, and you finally get to do it. So like the first time, the first game, it was first preseason game. That was crazy because I had actually had 2 touchdowns and I did pretty well. But it was just a crazy feeling. But once I had kind of got the jitters out, it all felt normal again. Like it just felt like, backyard football again. And, it was just, I was just having fun with my team. And we was just starting to build a bond from that point on. And it was crazy even playing like in season because those games are even crazier. The Minnesota games, they got the skull chant, and the fans they're probably some of the best fans in the NFL, if not the best. But yeah, man, like I said, it's a crazy feeling, and it's something that you can't really explain. It's just kind of something that you can give the the least bit of information on because it's so much more than I can say.
Was there any player that you played against while you were in the NFL that you got starstruck by?
Um, I seen the GOAT, I seen Brady, but this was when I was doing workouts for teams, and I had done a workout for the Patriots, and he actually wasn't supposed to be there, but he showed up to do a workout himself, and yeah, just walked in the locker room. He was tall, lanky, but as soon as you see him, you kind of knew him. Like all of our, it was like 3, 4 guys, and like one of them was like tapping my leg, and I was just like, what? And I looked, and it was Tom Brady, and we was just like, for probably like the whole time that he walked in there, and he had came over to us, and he was just like, "What's up, guys? You got to work out?" And we were like, "Yeah, yeah." You know, he just told us good luck, and hope we made the team, and hope we did good and stuff like that. But that was crazy to be. Other than that, not really anybody besides that that I can think of.
Well,
Yeah,
after the Vikings, you tell me the story. You spent 6 days as a Jacksonville Jaguar.
yeah. So I went to Jacksonville. I signed a contract with them, and it was during training camp, and I was there for the last, I think the last, no, I was there was like 2 days left after of my 6 days. So um, I did 2 practices, and I had never done a practice at Jacksonville, which is crazy. I actually was doing practices when they did. When as soon as I got there and they signed me, they kept me there. And the next day we flew to Baltimore because we were doing joint practice with the Ravens. And do the first practice, did great. Next day they kind of get me more involved because they did want to keep me. They got me more involved. And I think third the third day is when I had gotten injured. I had gotten a quad contusion. It was a high grade. I don't really remember. And I just remember going like trying to go to my room, and like I thought I was good. I tried to go to my room and just go chill before we had to go to meetings that night. And I remember just getting back up out of my bed, like I could barely walk. And I had just called like one of the trainers up to come help me down, and they came and helped me. And like on the way down, they basically was telling me, they was like, "Yeah, you probably got a quad contusion. Not sure what grade or how high it is." And I remember going to get like a MRI the next day and the X-ray to make sure I didn't like mess anything up. And I had done the injury like on special teams. Like I was just doing punt protection, and I was the protector, like on the right wing. And I remember like you have your left leg up, and you're supposed to like kick slide back. And I think one of the guys was like running and tried to like go inside of me, like cut inside of me, and then ended up like kneeing me in the quad. And that's how that happened. But um, we actually had to play the preseason game in a couple of days, and like I was bummed that I probably wasn't going to get to play. And yeah, they basically broke it to me. They was like, yeah, you're probably going to be out for like 4 or 5 months. It was like it could be like 8 months max or around that area. And I was like, cool. I was like, we'll just rehab it and we'll get it, see what we can do. And I remember I was just rehabbing it, and I was actually rehabbing at like a place off site, not actually at the Jags. So then they actually had put me in a hotel off site too. And I just remember me and my agent talking, and then he was just like, you could either see if you want to go somewhere else, see if somewhere else wants you. You know, I could just make some calls and see what I could do, and get you signed somewhere else. Basically, he was like, we'll have to do like an injury settlement or something like that, because he was like, you probably won't be able to be back like in time before the season starts. Um, so yeah, that's what we did. We did an injury settlement, and that's basically how I got waived. It was basically our doing. We basically did that because it was the injury settlement, like I said. And after that, I remember I was just doing workouts. That's how I ended up meeting Tom Brady. I was just doing workouts, and I had done a workout for the Browns. I had done a workout for the Lions, and I had done a workout. I had done tons of workouts, and Raiders. And the Raiders were actually wanting to sign me too, but there was something that happened with that as well. There was something else to it. But yeah, that's the gist of that.
Well, Roc, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast and chat a little ball. Hope you have a great rest of your day.